Okay, we are back. Good morning, Austin. My name is Dylan Bowman. We are joined by two of our friends from Strava, Tim Myers, Larissa Rivers. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Yeah, great to be here.
So, I mean, what an amazing product and what an amazing legacy of this brand. I feel like, I was using Strava before it was ubiquitous globally. Larissa, you gave me my first GPX watch so that I could actually use the platform. You're one of the longest tenured employees at the brand. Maybe first just introduce yourself and your history with Strava.
Sure. My name is Larissa Rivers. I am on the partnerships team at Strava, which is us trying to get more people to use the platform as possible and really utilize it in a way that, creates the kind of environment we want to have on the platform, motivating, inspiring, really positive community building platform. I started at Strava as what I think was the first person that was like really specifically focused on run. We had launched the app, the Run app. We had two different apps at that time in the end of 2011. And I was brought on to just bring more community members on it, which is why I gave you the watch. Like I was given a handful of watches and tell people how Strava works, kind of be the Tom of MySpace, follow them all when they join Strava, and make them understand that there is this social capacity there. And over time, I've obviously grown out of that role, but it hasn't really changed that much. Just that we now have millions of runners on the platform, tens of millions of runners on the platform versus a couple thousand when I started.
Didn't you just hit 100 million users this year? Something like that?
100 million a couple of years ago. We just don't talk about the numbers anymore.
Okay.
So
we don't like to brag. Yeah.
We're 110 million plus, according to our
point is
external decks.
12-year veteran.
Yes.
What's it? I guess it's sort of been a theme of our shows over the last couple of days. We've spoken to a lot of people, coincidentally, who've been in their jobs or at their companies for a decade plus. What has made Strava the place to be for you? What's made it home for such a long period of time? Why is it a great place to work?
I mean, I think at the 10,000 foot level, we motivate and inspire people to move their bodies. And there's nothing that makes me happier than helping people achieve a goal, whether that's running their first 5K or running a 100-miler or, getting out for a daily walk because it helps their mental health. That's the kind of thing that makes me excited to work for a company like that. I would couple that with, Tim, who's here too, has been here for 5 years, and I've been here for a long time. There's been a lot of change almost annually. And I'm the kind of person that thrives on that. What's next? I'm constantly learning new things. At Strava, I work with brilliant people, kind people, really fun to work with people. And I think that's really been the secret sauce. I think there's some random Scott Galloway quote that your loyalty shouldn't be to a business, it should be to the people. And I think that that's really true of how Strava operates.
Strava inspires people to move their bodies, and Larissa Rivers also inspires people to move their bodies. You should follow her on Strava. You will be inspired. Mother of three, just dominating the Chicago Marathon. Tim,
yes.
Introduce yourself to the audience. What do you do? What's your role? How long have you been at Strava?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Tim Myers, a product manager at Strava. So I'm responsible for helping teams of people, these good people Larissa was talking about, build products for our end user. And so my role is to kind of look out into the market, look out in that space, see what could help motivate, see what could help drive activity, bring that back, and then build it. And so actually, I started 5 years ago, and actually started in business partnerships. So my goal was to help connect brands and the users together to help drive value there, and then kind of moved into the competition and community space. And so since then, it's been really about how do you help our athletes out in the world better connect and find motivation from each other. And then that really drives towards the mission and vision. And a huge plus one on what keeps you at Strava is really that connection to we are doing something good, which when you kind of look out into the business world, sometimes that can be challenging to find.
It's so funny, too. And if you look at the analogs in sort of the social category, more or less, Strava is the one platform where you're going to go and be inspired and have a positive experience. And maybe, Larissa, this would be a good question for you as somebody who works in partnerships. Typically on a lot of these social platforms, those partnerships come in the form of direct ads in a lot of cases. And there's ways in which brands can effectively leverage the platform to engage a consumer, but it's not in the way that a lot of social channels work. Maybe talk about that, how that's evolved, and maybe like what the values are with Strava around that.
Yeah, one of the things we really focused on probably the last 2 years is accelerating our move to be a platform. So not, a brand that helps you track your runner rides, but really the place where you can connect with the right people, with the right brands, with the right groups that are going to inspire and motivate you. We tell brands all the time, like the reason people are coming to Strava is because they are trying to get inspired, motivated, or get kudos after the run that they did. I mean, I always say it extends the runner's high. And as a brand, as a creator, as a club organizer, you know the audience that you're getting. You get higher visibility, higher engagement, because we're not in the ads platform business. Yes, we do have a pay-to-play service with our challenges, but we're more in service to the athlete. And so if you join a club and you want their content, you're going to get it in your feed. If you follow Dylan Bowman and you want to get his content, you're going to get your content and you get to see all that stuff in real time. And so we're really trying to help connect the athletes to what motivates and inspires them and make Strava a more fun place to be, so that whenever you go there, you want to get out the door or go to the gym or celebrate a moment that you've seen on the platform. Being
here at TRE, it's a unique opportunity probably to engage with partners. Whatever you can reveal about conversations you've been having or networking that you've been doing, and how your, what brands, footwear and apparel brands are thinking about using the platform to engage the audience and a consumer.
Yeah, so one of the reasons that we thought the running event would be a really good platform for us, and Tim was on a panel earlier today, is that a lot of retailers are actually using Strava clubs as a way to create community around their store and ultimately bring people back to the store, buying things, creating loyalty around the store. I think Ted Knutson, who bought SFRC from my husband and I, really talked about how it's not this automatic thing that happens. Like, you create a weekly run, people come back. He's like, with the Strava Club, we're able to make sure that people know when our events are happening, celebrate others who are doing the ride, like the runs, bring them back into the store. And he's like, and we built that loyalty over time. They're not like points in time. And so the Strava Club really helps you to do that. And that's what Tim's been working on really closely.
Yeah, I might add to that too, if you don't mind. So, there's like this authenticity component to Strava. Like, what shows up on the platform is often because you did something, you like recorded an activity, you went out and did something with some friends. And I think what the brands are seeing on our platform is it's not something where you can just come and just like pay money and accelerate your growth. We talked about this at the panel. We want to see sustainable growth in communities. We want to see sustainable growth in brands and businesses. And that actually comes through like everybody kind of sweating it out together. And so when they come on the platform, they can start creating content, but we say like, don't just make the content something glossy. Actually make it about the athletes, the users who are out there doing things, and tell that story. And it's going to be much more meaningful. And you can even back it with like, and here's the activity they did. Go give them a kudo. That's a fundamentally different system than I think what you see throughout the rest of the social ecosystem, in which anything can kind of be made up and it goes from there.
So say a little bit more about groups and the momentum behind it, the priority that it's seeing from a management level at Strava.
Right. So starting this year, we had a conversation around how do we really, accelerate some of the key components of the platform. And you have everything, we have like a routing technology where you can get routes. We have things like the feed where there's kudos, all these kind of different parts of the stack. But one of the things we looked at is there are groups today on the platform, there are organizers today on the platform, and they are doing the good work of bringing people together, bringing them to Strava and creating motivation. And how do we serve them, right? How do we really help enable them so that when they're doing that work, they can kind of scale it up in an easy way? And then we just start to see more of these like diverse communities all over the place, like popping up and doing this amazing work. And like, we know we can't do it all, right? Mm-hmm. We can try to do little things to like change growth in these different areas, but it's actually best when they do it on the ground. And so a lot of our investments this year have been helping that community be able to more effectively do this work. And then when they do it, then they help their members do the good work of like getting out and having activity. And so we've seen this cool groundswell by literally just saying like, we are here to help, and we can do that through technology. We can also do it through teaching. Like, we have like guidance, and we have like different ways that we can help these community organizers, like on the panel today, just simply think about how do you get started? How do you go from there? And we're continuing. So like the whole another set of investments this year. Exciting stuff to talk about. But yeah, we're really, really committed to the space.
So before we get to the exciting thing to talk about that you're going to be sort of revealing here on the show, Larissa said that you, Tim, were the pioneer of the local legend designation, and I'm a proud holder of a few local legend titles around where I live as somebody who has a hard time securing any CRs anymore. It gives me a lot of pride. Where did that insight come from? Because it felt like a pretty cool evolution.
For sure. And I'll always start off by saying that like I am just a part of a team that brings things like this to the market. And so the insight from this was when we were thinking about like how do we extend how segment competition works today, right? So we know we have our leaderboards, there's lots of competition there. But people were really saying like I want another way to compete as I'm like maybe like aging out or just in a different part of life or a different thought process. And we said, what if it was about rigor and habit and just the people who just like get out there day after day? And we wanted to make a game that was somewhat perpetual. So I always say like the beauty of this game is it's like 90 days and it's always rolling. So you're always kind of like losing those efforts. Someone else is catching up on you. And the community you start to see form around the local legends is just like unbelievable. There's like all these like wild competitions. There was this one story about an individual like letting another person have the local legend on their birthday, put a sign on their car that said, you can have it today. And then they took it back the next day.
It was so good.
It was unbelievable. And it's just like, it's been so cool. There's even like memes. I mean, it's just like, it's like so cool to see that kind of thing happen. So I think like that is the thing that we keep thinking about is like, we know we want to continue to support like that core early user who is competing on the leaderboards, but we also want to support like this new community. And from that, like beautiful things happen. So yeah, that was a very cool product. I'm glad to see it still out there.
Very cool. All right, so tell us the exciting news that we have to embargo till Monday.
Yeah.
You can date on Strava.
Yeah, exactly. You can now date on Strava. No, so this is very exciting. I'm like have like butterflies talking about it because we've been working on this for a while. So one of our goals is continue to help, our athletes like be able to connect, right? We call it connect, coordinate, celebrate the activity. And so how can we do that, right? We've been asking people for a long time, how do we do this? And what they keep coming back with is like, I want a way to be able to like communicate on the platform that's easier than comments, easier than posts. And so we said, great, like that starts to sound like a messaging capability, right? And so we've been actively working on this. By the time this podcast is out, it'll have been shipped, but we are going to be shipping Strava messaging, which is both direct and group messaging. So the ability to like reach out to other people inside of your network. And then as a one-on-one, and then also the ability to create like a group conversation. And what's like super slick about it is you'll be able to like easily share like routes and activities into it. So it's all utilizing like the core parts of our platform to be able to bring that together so people can like plan activities and go. And we're also trying to build it to be really safe. And so like we have like all these kind of controls so that you can like really be in control of that experience while also having it be a lot of fun.
So cool. So DMing on Strava, go check it out as soon as you listen to the show. I'd love to talk about trail specifically before we wind down here. Obviously, we're trail people here. Being at Camp Strava in May, one of the coolest things in that full day experience was the presentation of FatMap and its integration into Strava. And I have to say, I now use the mapping feature a ton on my mobile device. And one of the things that I talked about, because I did a panel there during Camp Strava, is just like the heat map feature alone just being such a breakthrough and such like a visual representation of community, because I use the example of being in Hawaii and not knowing where to run, and you just pull up the heat map, and then it's like a digital community enlightening you where to go. But that's like not even the tip of the iceberg in terms of FatMap and what that brings to the product. I don't know how much you guys have involvement into it, but would love to open the floor to, the mapping and the what parts of the product are specific to trail runners in our audience.
Yeah, so one of the things that we introduced last year was the FatMap, like 3D mapping. It's much better than ours. They actually like use a full stack mapping capability, so it's kind of like built from the ground up. And we'll be integrating more of their technology into the Strava platform. FatMap will still remain a separate app. If people haven't downloaded it, if you have a Strava subscription, you get a FatMap subscription. We're heading into the winter months, and so FatMap becomes really cool because they actually do avalanche prediction. So for people who are backcountry skiing, anyway, that's my FatMap plug. It's an amazing, amazing product. But we're going to be like pulling a lot of the functionality that makes sense for endurance athletes into the product. We're launching flyovers. Or we launched flyovers?
Yeah, flyovers is out, I believe on Android, and it's coming on iOS. And so it's like everyone's favorite feature of you can relive or
Yep.
your experience on the map.
Yep. And one of the other things that we've recently done, which I think is more relevant for event organizers and some of the community organizers in the space, is custom points of interest that you can add, aid stations or viewpoints or things like that you can then embed the route into your race page, which is dynamic. It can actually connect to your club if you're building your club on Strava. So there's this whole really cool event community ecosystem around maps that we're really trying to lean into. I think there's talk of how do you have route collections and suggested routes, and the route capabilities are really coming into more aspects of Strava versus it just being the maps tab.
Right. And I would say too, what's cool about bringing our two companies together is you have people who are super passionate about maps and routing from two different spaces coming together, and that's been really great to see, kind of the collaboration and the ideas that come out of that. And so I think what we'll continue to see this year into next year is the map is just going to get better and better and better. A lot more just the information layers you can get on top of the routing technology, on top of the things that we can do there. So I think that bringing those two groups together was incredibly important, and and then also we now have an office in Chamonix, which is
that's really
not so bad,
point.
not so bad.
Do many offsites, I'm sure. Larissa, I'd love to hear, because it feels to me like the product is such a valuable piece of any athlete's repertoire, more or less. But, it feels as a marketer, you're probably constantly looking at ways where you can find growth opportunities, and it must be somewhat saturated, especially in the very serious athlete community. So say a bit about that. Where are you seeing channels for growth?
Funny enough, the US is our biggest opportunity market. So we have roughly 18% of the population of the United Kingdom on Strava. This is not 18% of active people in the United Kingdom. 18% of human beings that live in the United Kingdom are on Strava. In the US, it's somewhere between 2 and 3%. And that's not because people in the UK are wildly more active than people in the United States of America. It's literally that we don't have a lot of awareness of the product. So within our world, everyone knows what Strava is. It feels ubiquitous. I live in Boulder, and I have mom friends who run 5 days a week who have never heard of the platform. And I'm shocked as to why, but there's a huge opportunity within the US. I mean, the other thing within the US is that we have a higher subscription rate of Americans. They tend to pay for subscriptions as part of, I think we probably all have 15 subscriptions on our monthly bills. But so that has become a really core focus of ours from a marketing perspective. And I would say the areas that we are finding at least more opportunity in to start are sort of the coast and then the mountains.
Maybe final, as we wrap up here, Tim, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, but Larissa touched on subscription, right? And I think it's important to note that is the driver of the brand, and that is very different from every other network on the internet, more or less. And it's, I think, what makes it special. And I think oftentimes it's hard for a consuming audience to see that and be I've got to pay for something. But really, you do get what you pay for. If there's anything you want to say about the value proposition of that subscription, anything else that's going to be sort of coming down the pipeline that you're excited about from a product perspective to leave the audience with?
Right, for sure. And it's funny, I have this conversation with my friends all the time because they say, I work at Strava, they got Strava and this and that, and the paywall and things of that nature. And I think what's important at the end of the day is, we all have to ask ourselves the question as consumers, what do we want to support, right? What kind of businesses do we want to support with? So when you buy something, you are showing support to that business in a way. And we think about that with our subscribers. They're not only receiving value from us, we always say, the best of Strava is in the subscription, but they're also supporting our mission and our vision. And so I feel I always want to say, you're buying into this idea of where we all want to go together. Mm-hmm. And so, we are actively working, I think, in a few ways. One, to better educate the value that's inside the subscription, so people are very clear on that. And we're also building many new functionality and different items that will continue to add value there. So I think if you're not a subscriber, I think it's one of those things, go check it out. There's a lot of good stuff there. But also if you are, a huge thanks, and just know that we think about you daily, and we really are building towards more and more value in that space, and that we are, again, thankful that you're on this journey with us.
Am I right to assume that it would be a lot easier to just splash ads all over?
Correct. Yep. And that's something that we've tried very hard
Resisted.
not like, but because and Michael said this, and you've probably heard it on like other podcasts before, but if you're not paying for the service, you are the product.
Yeah.
And so in our world, it's like we want to give you value through the subscription features, which is progress and training and mapping capabilities and competition. Like there's some social features added to the subscription, but we mostly want to keep that community aspect, like people make people active as part of your Strava why, but the subscription becomes more about like you and the things that you can do. And there's a lot of value in the Strava subscription that, to Tim's point, you probably don't know about. You get access to Recover Athletics and
And Fat Map.
That's right.
yeah.
I mean, that alone is worth the price. let alone
Exactly.
everything else.
Exactly. And I think they're like, to Tim's point, I think sometimes we find through our own data that subscribers that we have joined because they have brand affinity to Strava, that by like being a Strava subscriber, it says something about like who they are
Oh, yeah.
as a person. And we love that, but we also want to like continue to build value
Yeah.
for those people who are super loyal. One stat I like recently heard is that we have an incredibly tenured subscription pipeline. Like we have people who've been paying for the subscription for over 8 years regularly. And I think that just says a lot about like what the value that they're seeing in it.
I mean, it's such a great product. It's such a great
you.
product, and it's so underpriced from my perspective. So, and I'm still designated a professional athlete. I need to get rid of that designation and start freaking paying for my subscription. Anyway, I appreciate you guys both for coming in. Congratulations on all that you guys have built on this amazing platform. 12 years of tenure, the inventor of the local legends, and driving a lot of the product. Looking forward to sharing the conversation with the listeners so we can all DM each other.
Yeah, DM us on Strava.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for Larissa.